It's time for Conversations with Bob and Sherry. Hello, Sherry.
Hey, Bob, it is time. And before we get started, I just want to tell the audience what a great job you've been doing with our shorts. They're breaking 1,800 views. So, we're very proud of that. So just want to tell you what a great producer you are.
Well, thank you. And
Yeah.
I'm still trying to crack the code as far as how, we did 4 and one of them gets 1,800 views. The next time I did 6 and one of them gets 1,700. So I'm still trying to figure out, which ones get promoted and why. So.
Well, that's either way. I mean, it's been. I looked. Our total was 15,000 views in our total video views, and that's pretty impressive. We haven't even come to our 1-year anniversary yet, so I'm excited about that.
My brother lives in Florida. He doesn't do social media, but he does do YouTube. So I had sent him in the past when we started this channel links, and he never really responded. But I sent him a couple of the shorts, and he was very complimentary. He thought that was perfect. He said, he doesn't like to spend a lot of time listening to podcasts, and nobody, sometimes it's too complicated. They're talking too much. He just thought it was great that we could capture so much in 1 minute.
Well, that's fantastic. So, so let's talk about all the things we want to talk about today. There's a lot.
Okay.
So let's start with this CNN article, and it's all over the news. A lot of people probably heard of it. This was updated at 6:57 this morning. Today's March 1st, where the FBI director. This is on CNN Politics, by the way. So it's not misinformation because it came from CNN.
Wow. If it is, it's CNN spreading the misinformation,
Right,
not
it's
us.
not us. The FBI Director Wray acknowledges Bureau assessment that COVID-19 likely resulted from the lab incident. Now, our Department of Energy also is having that theory. I'm not going to say they confirmed, they disconfirmed, because the White House came out and said they're still investigating it. But yeah, I mean, this has been, how many people have said this from the very beginning? And
Right.
I just want to represent all the conspiracy theorists that lost their friends over the past few years about this could coming from a lab, not a bat. I think there's some kind of justice here for people that believe it was a lab leak.
I think it was Jon Stewart did this. You hear the news. There's a new, highly contagious, dangerous virus been released. And then the next breath, they say it originated in a China city called Wuhan, right? And then the third thing they say is, in Wuhan, there's a virus lab. So, I mean, common sense right there. I would think you would have to prove it didn't come out of there than the other way around.
Well, by the way, Wuhan is the sister city to Pittsburgh.
Oh, very nice.
Wuhan is actually Pittsburgh's official sister city.
That's cool.
Yeah, well, there you go. Our sister city in China produced the COVID-19 virus. I watched a documentary a while ago, and I think YouTube took it out, and it talked about the bat lady, it talked about the research on COVID. It's really SARS, and then this COVID-19. And one of the theory is that, now Dr. Fauci, of course, is the ones completely dismissed the lab theory. So now I think the White House and Dr. Fauci will have a lot to explain. But
Can I correct you just for a sec?
Sure.
Well, I'm not. No, it's probably not a correction. But the person who originally said that it was not from a lab leak, his name is Christian Andersen. So he's a Danish evolutionary biologist. He's a professor at Scripps Research. He's from Harvard, all these things. So he came out in January 2020. He emailed Anthony Fauci.
okay.
He emailed Fauci in January 2020 telling him that some features of virus made him wonder whether it had been engineered, and noted that he and his colleagues were planning to investigate further by analyzing the genome. However, 2 months later, Anderson was the lead author of the scientific paper, The Proximal Origin of SARS-CoV-2, and that's the one that said that it could not have come from a lab, that it was naturally occurring. There's no sign of, he actually said it was impossible to engineer such a virus.
What changed?
So, and then, of course, our media ran with that. Fauci did. Our media ran with it.
Well, one of the things I was telling a friend of mine back in 2020, after I didn't say it right away. I mean, in the beginning, I'm like, oh, it's from a bat. It's from this wet market, which I'm thinking, yeah, I can see there's a lot of wet market in China. But then at the same time, I thought, boy, the Chinese people have been eating bats for thousands of years. Like, why did this just happen? If anything, they should, the Chinese people will have immunity because they have been eating rare animals, for many, many years. So, yeah, I just thought I think more things going to come out. Now, I don't know why it came out now. Maybe because we're in kind of a tense situation with China. So this could also be a propaganda war against China, which China came out and completely blasted United States for having this theory. So, but
Okay.
as the tension continued to happen, I wonder more and more little secrets going to start coming out from both sides, right? When we're in a propaganda war and everybody have dirt on each other, it'd be very interesting.
Okay, so the FBI now is saying it.
Right.
There was...
The Department of Energy is saying it. So I don't know why our Department of Energy have anything to do with the investigation of this virus, but it was interesting. I was like, Department of Energy, that's interesting.
That's a good question. Well, there's been shady things from the beginning. I mean, there's an article on CNN. Now, to believe this is from February 2020. And if you followed the news coverage during the pandemic, this will surprise most people. They reported on this head of the WHO, the World Health Organization, Tedros, he's confusing names, but the WHO's praise of China's response have led critics to question the relationship between the two entities. The UN agency relied on funding and the cooperation of members to function, giving wealthy member states like China considerable influence. Perhaps one of the most overt examples of China's sway over the WHO is its success in blocking Taiwan's access to the body, a position that could have very real consequences for the Taiwanese people if the virus takes hold here. So You read the rest of this article, it's just a ton of criticism and skepticism, if you will, of the WHO, and if they're making good decisions and recommendations based on their relationship with China.
Well, if you remember, Taiwan urged WHO to look into this December 30th, 2019.
Right.
They're saying there's some things going on, and they're urging China to look into it, and WHO would not go investigate. And they did go to China January 13th of 2020 and say there's nothing wrong. This virus cannot spread. And I was following that very closely at the time.
That was January 13th?
Yeah, the president of WHO did visit China. And they
saw what's funny?
What?
Well, I discovered, looking for these old news articles, it was January 30th, 2020, when he declared it a global emergency.
Yes. I remember the whole timeline on my Facebook page, and I was trying to tell my friends this is happening. And, of course, they'd be like, oh, you're crazy. And then 2 months later, put the mask on. I can't see you. The world is falling. I'm like, oh, my God. Like, just 2 months ago, you tell me I'm crazy, there's nothing happening, and then 2 months later, we can't see each other. I'm like, all common sense has fell apart, right? Yes. All common sense fell apart at that time. I just want to take a step back. This morning, I was watching a little bit snippets. Apparently last night, the House had a hearing or discussion or whatever. It was a bipartisan Democrat and Republican, and talked about, they all came in, condemned China. China is impacting our national security. China, this is potentially the fentanyl and supply chain issues. And it just reminds me, everything they're saying, it was what Trump said when Trump was in office. Or when and Trump was running for his first campaign, he kept saying, China is our greatest enemy. Okay.
Oh, and what about Trump and TikTok?
Right. And at Trump and TikTok. And at that time, if you remember what everybody was saying about Trump, you're crazy. China's not our competition. It is Russia that's our competition. And now we have the Congress bipartisan now all saying exactly the same thing Trump has been saying for the past 6 years.
Right.
I was like, wow.
So Trump blocks TikTok from government devices. The media and everyone screams, you can't do this. He's like an authoritarian, all that stuff. So Biden, when he gets in office, eliminates that immediately. Now, 2.5 years later, they're saying, we better take that off. They've got a lot of spyware going on here. So for 2.5 years, just because you wanted to make the point that you were undoing something that Donald Trump did, you put the compromised our country for 2.5 years.
Well, another thing is, if I think we said this before, if Biden would have went into the office and do absolutely nothing, just keep Trump's policy, you won. You won the presidency.
Right.
You don't have to prove anything, right? The proof is the fact that you got elected.
Right.
Why go ahead and destroy all the good policy was put in place that was good for the country?
Obama didn't do that.
No,
so,
Obama did not do that.
He immediately erased everything that was happening on the border, erased the TikTok, erased the, allowing the drilling, the policies about the pipeline and everything that were encouraging oil exploration. So, rather than come to office and spend some time looking into it, he immediately on day one eliminated it. And if you recall, Obama ran on closing down Gitmo. Every speech he promised, day one, I'm going to shut down Gitmo. He didn't. Why? Because he knew it was a bad idea. I mean, he used it in a campaign, but he was smart enough as a leader to say, you know what, we're not just going to arbitrarily shut this down for political reasons. We're gonna look at it, and it was what was it, years later? It was still up.
It's still up. And case in point, we talked about this in our last show. Obama did not do anything when Russia took over Crimea.
Right.
Because he knew it would have been a bad idea. This is what's happening now, right? We're helping Ukraine, and we're allowing. Well, first of all, he said minor incursion. It's okay with us. Now
that was such a bad move.
And now it's like, it to Russia is like it is a minor incursion. I'm taking Ukraine. That's my definition of minor incursion. So now we're in the middle of the war. I have to say, I know I want to move on to the other fun topics, but here's a very interesting thing. I had a discussion last night at the bar with a young lady, and we were talking about World War III. And then another guy, just randomly, an older guy. And so we were having this discussion about where everybody's going to be if there's a World War III. So China is aligning with Russia. So she said, and she's a very liberal young woman, okay? But what was really interesting last night when we were talking about the fact that China is aligning with Russia and we're with Europe, the way she was talking, she become extremely patriotic. And the way she talks, I looked at her, I said, my God, did you just turn Republican on me? So one of the things she was saying, she said, well, we have NATO and we have Canada, we have Mexico. And I'm like, what do you think? Canada and Mexico, we're protecting them. She said, well, who do you think China will have? I said, China will have Russia, right? China will have Iran. Now, one country I did not mention is Afghanistan, because Taliban now is, Afghanistan is controlled by the Talibans. China will possibly have India. And she said, no, India is going to be with America. I'm like, you're out of your mind. If you think India bordering Russia and China. It's going to help us, United States, and fight a war. And also they're having conflicts with Pakistan always. If you think India will do that, you really think Indian people are very smart. They're not that dumb. And then there was the article on aljazeera.com. Is published February 24th, 2023 by Aaron Hale. The title of the article, How China and India's Appetite for Oil and Gas Kept Russia Afloat.
Okay.
So just right before G20, the foreign minister, Vladimir Putin's foreign minister, went to India and had a negotiation with his counterpart. And the thing is, it was interesting to me, this young liberal lady that was talking the way it talks is, during the Cold War, she made a point. She said, well, China gonna need us because we buy everything from China. We are the consumers. So I said, look, read the Chinese history. The Chinese government will have no problem shut their door to the whole West and say, we're not giving you guys anything. So she said, well, what about the crops? They get the crops from Africa. What do you think China did in the past 25 years, right? They invested so much infrastructure in Africa, buying up their land and planting crops. Another thing, we have in the North America, in our Western Hemisphere, between Canada, United States, and Mexico, we have over 870 million people. The whole world have about 8 billion people. Majority of the population are in the Eastern Hemisphere. Mm-hmm. China can shut their door to Canada, United States, and Mexico. They would still have India, Pakistan, the entire Middle East, and the entire Europe. Europe would never cut their ties with China because they're heavily dependent on it. And they're not, this is not, so I think a lot of people is going to really misjudge if they still think the way they think, like back in the 70s and 80s. China is no longer the China back in the 70s, 80s. China is a global power. So the young lady said to me, well, we are the power of the world. I said, oh my God. If you think America today is the power of the world, you really better go back and rethink about all this, right? Because think about, we talked about how we already lost in the fentanyl war. We lost on the drug war already. Our people are dying, 100,000 a year, die of a drug overdose. Not to mention the people that's addicted to drugs, suffer from mental illness. Our young population, the military is 35% under recruitment at this point. So as our police force. So, you want to fight a power like China? I mean, let's be realistic here.
Well, I mean, I guess until what they say, to be the man, you got to beat the man. So, I mean, militarily, the U.S. could probably still make that claim, but I don't believe World War III is going to be and it may already be happening, but I don't believe it's going to be a military conflict.
I agree with you.
At least not against the U.S., because you have Russia trying to take Ukraine. Well, they're a bordering state. And you have China trying to take Taiwan. I mean, part of the reason the Roman Empire fell was they became scattered. They were trying to manage all these countries that they occupied. So being a remote country with the two oceans, it would not make sense for China, Russia, or any of them to come in here, take over militarily, and replace our government.
No.
What they would rather do, and they have the ability to do that now with technologies, they want to control us. They want to have control over us, and they can do that financially, and they can do that through technology, and that explains the fentanyl. Demoralize our citizenry. Take us out of the fight.
And TikTok, right? TikTok, which is a mental heroin. I think they're already controlling us because look at the media. We have had anti-American media for how long, right? And we'll talk about controlling us. You want to talk about China warned Elon Musk?
Yeah. I mean, back in World War II, you had Hitler with a lust for power and control, and it was all military. Same with Japan. But, I mean, right now, China's not stupid. China knows how the world operates. They understand the power of money and the power of controlling technology. So I don't believe that they're considering a military takeover of the United States. I think it's going to be they just want to control us through finance, through tech.
Well, yes, and I think we already lost that war.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what I was trying to explain to the people. I said, we are already in a war, and we are losing. The end.
Yes. Okay. In that context, I totally agree with you. I believe the war has started. Fentanyl's a part of it. TikTok's a part of it. And, we are losing. You look at our culture is kind of declining, work ethic, getting soft, mental health around young people. And the TikTok and fentanyl, they're just feeding right into that. They're just, making our people sick is what they're doing.
And I believe China controls our media. That's why there's so much anti-American.
Right. And like you said, they're trying to do it with Elon Musk now because Elon Musk wants to sell cars in China.
Yes. So, don't talk about the lab leak theory. What was that tweet? You want to tell everybody the tweet that
someone tweeted out, Fauci funded gain-of-function research, lied to Congress about it. Now both the FBI and Department of Energy have concluded the coronavirus originated at the Wuhan lab. And it says, does that mean Dr. Anthony Fauci funded the development of COVID-19? And Elon Musk replied, he did it via pass-through organization, EcoHealth.
EcoHealth, yeah. There's an article on New York Post back in March. This was published October 21st, 2021. It says Fauci's agency admits it funded gain-of-function work in Wuhan. And what else are they keeping from us? It was EcoHealth. And then, so China did not like that. Sure.
Yeah, so there they are. They're trying to control Elon Musk. They're threatening, we're not going to buy your cars. I mean, China's a big market.
Well, according to the news report I've been watching from the Chinese CCTV news, China is manufacturing their very own EV smart cars.
Okay.
I believe the battery will last longer because it's a way smaller vehicle. And, in China, they have highways, but a lot of them is, within the city itself driving. So, China eventually are going to manufacture a lot of things themselves so that they don't have to purchase and buy these technology. That's why there was a big problem we had with China for stealing intellectual properties, whether it's bootlegging movies or whatnot. I have a funny joke. So my husband is half Italian, half Jewish. There's a joke used to say, I don't know if I should steal or buy wholesale. Yep. And then now we used to joke about my son is Chinese, Jewish, and Italian, right? So he will have a trouble to decide to steal it, buy a wholesale, or just make it himself. So, but I have to say, being a Chinese, we are learned to be resourceful and think outside of the box ever since you were little kids. So this whole concept of coming to America, everybody say, you need to think outside the box. I'm like, yeah, well, this is something every Chinese kids grow up. If you can achieve something in one way, try another way. So it's not like a straightforward thinking, but rather they're thinking outside the box. So that's being taught in our culture since we were little kids, and that's not being taught here. They just started to teach kids here to be resourceful, find different ways of achieving something. But I don't know. I think it's crazy. And then you talk about lazy population or work ethic, whatever is down. So today is a very significant day for people that collect food stamps.
I'm sorry, it's what?
It's a very significant day for people that collect food stamps.
Oh.
So they're ending, apparently, I did not know this. So apparently during the pandemic, everybody got extra food stamps.
Right. They call it SNAP now, right? It's
They
like
call
on
SNAP.
a card. Yeah.
Right, they call it SNAP. So I was watching this news from Michigan. This woman who has 6 children. Her benefit is going to drop from $1,457 a month to $900 a month. That's quite of a significant of a drop. The problem is, so there's people in Ohio. I guess it's happening across the country. Now, March 1st, they're dropping the SNAP benefit, and I believe May 1st, they're going to drop the Medicaid benefit. Here's what my problem is on this. I understand people need to go out to get a job, but when you put someone on this type of level of budgeting for a good part of 3 years, people learn to rely on it. Okay? So if you drop the benefit, don't drop it like half, or some people get their benefit cut. This one woman, I read an article in Ohio, she's going to go from $248 a week down to $56 a week. I mean, can we just take it down? Like, if you've been giving this woman with 6 children $1,400 a month, maybe drop it down to $1,200. Let her go through this for 6 months, and then drop her for another 100. It's a little bit difficult for me, and I'm not one for welfare, right? But it's a little bit difficult for me to justify when we just handed Ukraine $113 billion, and then we're letting people cross the border, give them free health care, give them food stamps, pay $1,000 a night hotel for them to stay in New York City, shipping them over the country. Then you're telling me you don't have the money to give it to our own citizens. You're going to drop the food stamp that people depended on for the past 3 years down to like 45 to 50 to 60%. How do people adjust? How do they think people are going to adjust this within a day? They were getting $1,400 last month. They were getting $900 this month.
Yeah.
I mean,
I wholeheartedly agree. That's one of my beefs about government, and I would love for the American people to figure this out. So the government will do something to get votes, to get approval. Like they put a freeze on rent. You didn't have to pay your rent, so your landlord can't evict you, right? They give people these SNAP benefits. Now, what normal people do, if you're in business or in a family, you think, okay, when that runs out, how are we going to move away from it? Okay, because you immediately build dependency. I mean, right. when you tell people they don't have to pay rent, a lot of people aren't going to pay rent, and then when you release it, they're just going to say, okay, evict me. And, they're never going to pay it back. So, and then what's going to happen with the property owners? So they just don't think these things through. I don't think they want to. That's where the difficulty is in setting policy. So, yeah, they build dependency. They give people all this SNAP benefits, and they gave no thought to, now at the other end of this, we know people are going to be relying on it. We know their lives are going to change and they're going to be dependent. How are we going to take this away? And you've got a simple way of doing it. Phase it out. Slowly, gradually phase it out.
I would slowly phase out. Another thing is, in the beginning of the pandemic, when you increase the benefits so high, which I have people saying they're getting $2,000 on their SNAP. I'm like, how do you eat all this food, right? Mm-hmm. Well, the thing is, we didn't have the inflation we had today. So by giving people all that money, you flood all that money into the market, right. Increasing demand, you also drive up the price. And then once you drive up the price, now you're going to take it away from
double whammy. You're good point. Good point.
And it's like, okay, I mean, they were paying $1.99 for a dozen of eggs 2 years ago with a SNAP benefit that was way more than what they absolutely needed. Now they're paying $6 a dozen eggs, but you're taking the benefit away.
Right.
And on top of that, besides the SNAP benefit, I lost my train of thought, but I mean, I just think it's crazy. When
It
I
is.
saw the significant decrease, it's not a minor decrease. It is a huge decrease. That would be like I budget my household expenses at a certain amount, and then all of a sudden, well, it happened to the business world, right? It happened to restaurant owners, bar owners. We had to adjust right away, which is not that I look back. It's not a bad thing
Right.
because we have to learn live with very little right away in the beginning of the pandemic because we didn't get any help from the government. We got the PPP loan, but that PPP loan went to pay salaries. I didn't get the PUA. Somebody stole my social security number, so I didn't actually get the PUA. So we actually have to learn to live with very little, pinching pennies, figure out what to eat, eating less. I lost weight during the pandemic. I gained it all back. That's another bad story. But I knew plenty of people gain weight because now I realize why they're getting all this extra benefits. So they're eating great. But this is just,
Inactivity too.
inactivity. Yeah. Well, when you don't have any, well, yeah. Well, here's the thing. I think it's so cruel for the government to take away so much in such a sudden taking away. Yeah, I
agree.
phase it away. Say we take it away a little bit every 6 months or even every 3 months, but not drop it overnight. That is just cruel.
I completely agree. I mean, that's why they have limits on unemployment insurance. Here in Pennsylvania, we have a pretty good unemployment thing, but everybody knows, when you start paying people to not work, a lot of people, it's demotivating. A lot of people don't want to go to work, or they're less motivated to go to work. So they put limits on it. They say, when you sign up, your benefit is going to run out on this date. So you've got until then to get a job.
Right.
But this one, I mean, it's been years. So even if they knew the date, it's been so long, it should be a weaning off. They should phase it out slowly and give people an opportunity to adjust.
Oh, here's another thing which will be very interesting. So I learned another thing going through the SNAP. Apparently, if you're collecting SNAP and Medicaid, you're able to also collect up to $3,000 a month in cash. Not actual cash, but I guess you get a cash card. Yes. I didn't know this, right? I didn't know this. So
if you get Medicaid and SNAP, you immediately qualify for $3,000.
Not immediately. I mean,
okay.
Up to 3,000.
Up to, okay.
Up to. So my question is, with the decreasing the SNAP, is it also going to be decreasing in this cash benefit? In 2 months, there's also going to be decrease or taking away this Medicaid. So, I mean, that's pretty quickly. That everything happened within 3 months of time. And you're going to drive a lot of people going to food bank. And now food bank all over the country, they're suffering because of the inflation, because of the bad weather. They're not getting, the donation is not as good as what it used to be. Okay? So so now at the same time this is happening, you have people think we're going to fight China. Okay.
Yeah. I mean, the government created hardship for these people is what it comes down to.
Right.
There's a similar situation with immigration. If you recall back when Trump first took office, there was DACA. So they had 10 million, 20 million, whatever it was. But these were people who were brought to this country as children, and they've been here 20 years-ish. They've built a life here. They're really not citizens of the other country. So, we created this hardship for these people. So they say we should give them a path to citizenship. I 100% agree with that. However, only when you stop them from coming across like that.
Right.
So you created the problem. I believe our government is responsible for what happened to those people more than they are. They didn't even make the decision to break the law. Their parents did.
Now you sound like a liberal. Stop
it.
Well,
no. Because a liberal doesn't want to seal the border. They want to just keep letting them come over, create this situation where 20 years down the road, the same thing happens. You have to give them citizenship. Exactly. They want to do that.
And yeah, exactly.
I mean,
It's crazy for me when when I saw this news this morning, I thought this is ridiculous, you know. And what will happen to the student loan? No one's talking about it now. I think the student loan is with Zelensky.
yeah, yeah. I mean, I don't know what the price tag is on that student loan program. I'd sure like to, I don't know if anyone's estimated it, but
I don't think it went through because
it's just buying votes. Yeah, wasn't it? He did it via emergency powers because we were
right.
under the pandemic emergency, and now that he won the election, they just let it go away.
Yeah, I think the Supreme Court pretty much said it was not it's not constitutional.
Okay.
Yeah,
And they didn't care. They just wanted to buy votes. That's all they were doing.
yeah. So now they're in court, and also now it's down to where you're earning now. There's an income limit on it, and it would take forever. Meanwhile, some people stop paying, and the bank suffers. Just very irresponsible.
Yep.
And I know what I was going to say about the government. You say government makes all these mistakes and then they have to correct it. That's no different than when China said you only allow one child. If you have a second one, you'll be punished. Now they're losing population to India. Now they're like, have 3 kids.
Right. And,
Yeah.
and not only did they limit, the population growth by limiting a number of children, it became lopsided, right? Weren't people aborting girls and then putting them up for adoption because they wanted to have a boy? So now you've got more men, way more men than women.
Yes.
And by the way, the Democrats like to say Handmaid's Tale. That's a Handmaid's Tale situation there.
Well, when I was pregnant with my son, I was watching a lot of the documentaries. This is about 12 years ago. My kid is 12 now. So they were talking about how China have 3 million or 30 million more men than women. Because at that point, the policy has implemented for over 30 years. It literally started around 1979. It said one child only. It was right after my sister was born. And yes, because in Chinese household, it's a culture tradition. You always want a boy to continue the family name.
Right.
And so if you only allow one, you want to have one boy. Well, the government didn't think, a boy can't reproduce by themselves. That you need a wife.
Yeah. They don't think through the consequences of their actions. Think it through. What's going to happen here?
Right. So what wind up happening is a lot of people in China, women, even married women, gets kidnapped by men. They cannot find a wife. And also,
Handmaid's Tale.
And a lot of times, Chinese men will go to Africa because they had a relationship with Africa, and Africa have a lot of healthy female to reproduce offsprings, and they will go to Africa with their money and buying wives. Well, it created a big problem in Congo because now Congolian women would refuse to marry Congolian men. And then Congo had a strict immigration policy forbidding Chinese men come in buying, offering these great gifts to marry their women out of the country. Mm-hmm. So it's funny but not funny. So now they're like, have 2 kids. Well, then have 3. Well, a lot of the younger people in China, they don't want to have kids because for years you're getting pounded, say, career, career, career.
Right.
Make money, make money, make money. Well, kids going to be,
So you give them capitalism, they get a little more westernized.
Right. So kids it's like, well, I don't want to have children, or they have kids later in life. So they're not producing enough population versus India. They never put a cap on how many kids you can have.
Yeah.
Now India does suffer greater poverty. There's greater poverty in India, but then now they're going to have a bigger population.
This is what needs to be taught in schools. Okay. China, huge socialist communist country, severe poverty, overpopulation. They couldn't take care of their people. So they see what's happening around the world with these other prosperous countries, so they start privatizing things. They basically embrace capitalism. And as you've mentioned on here, they're more capitalist than we are now.
They're more
so now they become a world economic power.
Yes, economically.
So why is that not being taught in our schools?
No idea.
I mean, we have generations of people who want to go the other way. They want to embrace socialism, government control, and it's over and over and over again. It doesn't work.
The only thing is being controlled in China is the government being a communism party. The bad thing is there's no private property law, so you don't own your home. You only have a long-term lease on the land. Everything belongs to the country.
Okay.
But the entire system is more capitalistic than United States. There's less red tape in China if you want to open up a business than United States. So yeah, China fully embraced economically capitalism. But yeah, that's what happened. No, they're not teaching that in school. No way. So, but it's
horrible. I mean, it's really a problem that our kids don't know this. I mean, what was the promise in China when they were inputting communism? I mean, it's always we're for the people. Look, the rich people are taking it. They're causing you to be poor. We're going to eliminate rich people. We're going to make everybody fair, and this is all about the people, the People's Republic of China.
Right.
And that's the rhetoric of the left. It's like, oh, we're about the people, not the big corporation, not the rich people. We're going to make everybody fair. We're going to give everybody stuff. Well, that's and then they say, but we're not going to be like China.
But here's a difference. So China, with the fact that the Chinese government's communism, but they're stressing in economic growth, they favor capitalism economically, highly educated people, highly motivated young people, okay? Work ethic is way better than this country. So you do have this communism party leading the country, unifying the population, at the same time moving everybody forward to, is there corruption? Definitely. But the young people are so motivated, okay? And they are having careers in their early 20s, and they're not afraid to work. And that's a big problem in our country is the kids are not motivated. They want to be TikTokers and YouTubers, and rather than engineers and lawyers and accountants. And like I said, I judge.
Is it because the Chinese people value the ability to make more money and to better themselves, where Americans, they just kind of take it for granted now? They expect that level of life to continue that they were brought up with their parents, where the Chinese appreciate the value of it because it's still pretty new to them.
You're absolutely right. You're absolutely right, because I think the people in this country take things for granted. They just think everything going to continue exactly the same, regardless who's our leader, what policy. I think in the next 2 years, the American young population going to come to a rude awakening, to understand what actually happened. Because as you get older, right? As you get older, you're going to start to look back and analyzing your life and to say, wow, what happened? What went wrong? And I think they're going to look at the world a little bit differently in the next couple of years. I still think that this country is going to go into a very, very great depression as far as, the morale and economically. And I think, like you said, hard time makes strong men, right? So we're gonna have to go through a hard time to produce a stronger man. And I always judge the Chinese policy by watching these Netflix Chinese soaps and movies, because the government have a lot to do with what kind of movie they can produce. So if you watch the movie, you see where the direction the country is. They did all the men in these movies and soaps are very masculine. I mean, they don't look masculine. They look like they have porcelain skin, but they behave very masculine. They're pushing family value now. They're pushing women to get married. And so, I mean, you can see the different direction they're pushing. But yeah, I mean, China is definitely a force to endure. Another thing what people don't understand is the Chinese leadership, unlike United States, you go in, you become the president, you reach highest office, you go back to a civilian life. That's what happens generations after generation. So you kind of understand that concept. The Chinese leader, they're used to for thousands of years, right? If you're emperor for life. And what does emperor do? They want legacy. They already have the money. They already have the power. Now they want legacy. This is no different than President Xi. He needs to have some kind of legacy. After COVID-19, I mean, what do you want? You want Taiwan. Because otherwise you only have COVID-19. You don't want that kind of legacy.
Sure.
So Taiwan is going to have an election 2024, so as United States. So the next presidential election in Taiwan and United States is extremely important. If Biden become president again, I'm not even saying any other Democrat president. If Biden became our president again, China will go after Taiwan.
I think they're waiting, huh? And they're obviously going to try and influence our election and the Taiwanese election.
Oh yeah, they already said China already said they're going to pour a lot of money into the Taiwanese election. Absolutely.
Okay.
So yeah, boy, we really got off some topic here. So we talked about Elon Musk. Let's talk about a couple interesting characters here.
Steven Seagal.
Let's talk about Steven Seagal. Yeah. So Steven Seagal, 2 days ago, Vladimir Putin bestowed him with the Friendship Award. This is according to Chicago Sun-Times. That was published February 27, 2023. Action star Steven Seagal, who holds Russian citizenship, is awarded the Order of Friendship, recognizing those who contribute to bettering international relations. Why do you think he made this move? I didn't know Steven Seagal has a Russian citizenship.
Yeah, I read that he admires Putin. He specifically says a lot of good things about Putin and admires him. 2016, he was granted Serbian citizenship, and he's teaching their Serbian special forces. Okay, yeah, that was January 2016. Then in November 2016, he was granted Russian citizenship. It said this guy, a government spokesman in Russia, said he was asking quite insistently and over a lengthy period to be granted citizenship. So he's been lobbying Putin to become a citizen.
Wow. And Seagal was named in 2018 as a Russian Foreign Ministry humanitarian envoy to the United States and Japan.
Now, here's an interesting thing about, so when I heard this, and I might have heard it a while ago, but seeing him with Putin was kind of impactful. He has claimed that he worked for the CIA. I mean, if you look that up, you could find it. He claimed, nobody's confirmed it, but right. I recall when he was married to Kelly LeBrock and he was a big deal with his movies Current, he was in an interview and the interviewer asked him about it and the one movie where, I don't know, he woke up in the hospital with amnesia or something, they said it was based on something that happened to him while he was in the CIA. So the interviewer wanted to ask more details, and they said, we don't talk about it. It's too difficult. It's too disturbing. I don't know that it's true.
Well, so this article is called this online thing called The Things or something, and then says 20 facts about Steven Seagal that fans choose to ignore. They call him a compulsive liar. And one of the ones he said he cheated on his wives when Steve moved to Japan. He's a lobbyist for a Russian firearms manufacturer.
He definitely comes off as a strange dude. He always did.
Wow. Who knows?
So he's a compulsive liar.
Yeah. Yeah. Who knows? I mean, maybe in 10 years or so, and then the FBI going to come out and say, well, he did work for the CIA. Who knows? Well, I thought that was interesting because I grew up with watching Steven Seagal's martial art movies in Hong Kong. I always thought those movies were so hokey, but my mother liked it.
Oh, they were. They were sort of, yeah, hokey, but people liked them.
They were so hokey. I mean, compared to Jackie Chan, forget it. Jackie Chan produces the best martial art movie, and then so as Jet Li, then you go to Steven Seagal, you're like, what are you doing? You don't know martial art. Plus, he's so overweight.
Yeah, he is now.
Well, he's 70. I mean, I have to say he looked great for his age. But it could be that, could it be that he was held there as a hostage? But, China often do that. They held some kind of celebrity or higher up people as hostage, but they treat them very well. And you live in a nice place, you get great service, but you just are not allowed a lot of things. So
I don't know. It sounds from the reading I did, it sounds like he went there and wanted to become a citizen. I don't know why. I didn't hear any explanation.
Yeah, I don't know why either. I feel like he might be just being held as a hostage, or he's being paid to do this. I mean, I can't see the reason why he wants to do that. I mean, we haven't seen Steven Seagal anywhere in the United States. This could be a propaganda thing. We're fighting Ukraine and Putin is like, oh, I'm giving this guy, used to be American guy, some kind of a war. I mean, I think it's just so weird, the timing of this.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So, the other celebrity we want to talk about is Ben Stiller, right?
Ben Stiller, sure.
Ben Stiller, yeah. So, go ahead.
Well, you pointed out to me that I guess there's people that think Tropic Thunder was the name of it because of a lot of the guy in blackface and the humor in it should be kind of eliminated or banned. And he tweeted out that he won't apologize for it. There have been rumors that he already did, but he tweeted out, "No, I don't. I make no apologies. It was a controversial movie." And yeah, I mean, it was mocking Hollywood. It was like, look at, this is what Hollywood does. So
I personally found that movie extremely funny.
It was funny, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, if that's the case, he should apologize for making that character Tom Cruise had, right? Fat fingers, fat hand. No, the movie
Quentin
was
Tarantino movies. I mean, they're pretty edgy as far as race issues. I mean,
yeah,
lots of N-word in his movies.
It was a spoof on Hollywood. It's not necessarily a spoof on anything else. So I'm not sure why he needs to apologize. Well, I mean, Ben Stiller is not that funny to begin with to me. And he produced a lot of movies he should apologize for. I wasted my time watching something. But not that one is actually funny.
I think his father's a lot funnier than he is.
Oh, I love his dad. I love the series King of Queens, and I thought his dad, his father made the show.
Yeah,
but
Seinfeld,
yeah.
George's dad.
Yeah.
Great.
I mean, Ben Stiller produced the movie Something About Mary was funny, and Tropic Thunder was funny. And then he was, what was the movie he's in? He was like a male model with...
Zoolander.
Oh my God, he should apologize for that.
Yeah, I agree. That was bad.
If Ben Stiller have to apologize for Zoolander. And I don't know why he made Zoolander 2. And like an idiot, I have to watch it. It was total waste of time.
I watched the first one. I didn't see 2.
Yeah, Zoolander 2, I think it pretty much bombed. But yeah, I demand Ben Stiller apologize for Zoolander movies. Not Tropic Thunder. But you know what's really interesting? They ask Ben Stiller to apologize, but they are not asking Robert Downey Jr. to apologize, right? Because Robert Downey Jr. was playing a Australian actor that plays a black guy.
Right. Well, did Ben Stiller produce it? Did he do more than just act in it? Maybe that's why.
Yeah, he produced it. Yeah. Okay. But everybody loved who asked Iron Man to apologize for anything.
Right.
So, talk about Iron Man. There was a rumor that Tom Cruise was supposed to replace Robert Downey Jr. Turned out that was a rumor. And I have spread that misinformation to everyone. I don't apologize for that. I just read an article. Turn out Tom Cruise will now be in Iron Man. So
He will?
he will not be.
Well, not. Oh,
That
okay.
was that was my misinformation.
Yeah, I think they go for the younger actors. I don't know. How old is
Tom Cruise
Downey
is
Jr.?
50 something. 50 something, yeah. Talk about, oh my God, we need to talk about this. I know we have to go, but let's talk about Ant-Man.
Okay.
If anybody know, I love Marvel movies. DC comic, Marvel, anything that's in that realm. I love those movies.
Mm-hmm.
I went to see Ant-Man with caution because I went to see Eternal and I was not crazy about it. It was just too woke. Even my son has pointed out there was a god in there. He's supposed to be Greek, but he was played by an Asian man. And my son's like, well, that's wrong because there's a Greek name. Why he look Asian? But I have to say, Ant-Man was very entertaining. There was nothing woke, no agenda. It was just a fun, entertaining action movie. It almost reminds me of Star Wars a little bit. So yeah, I was it was a great movie.
Yeah, I agree. It was a lot of fun. Just fun, and you didn't have any of this cringy,
Yeah, absolutely. And then, so I went to see the movie with my son and my husband. I was very much looking for it. I had to drag my kid to go to see it because he didn't like the other Marvel movies, but he loved it. My husband did not care for it too much. So according to the survey, 85% audience loved it, and 45% of people that hated it.
Really?
Yeah. So, but anyway.
I mean, I only went because I had seen the other movies, the time of it and all. I was hesitant, but I was glad I did. It was very good.
Yeah, it was very good. So, anyway, I just want to say we have some good interview coming up. We're getting some guests on the show. I'm very excited, and some of them are school board members. They're running for school board, and which they're collecting petition. All the local election now, they're collecting petition. I believe your school board, you only need 10 signatures, and you can run on both tickets.
Okay.
So to the school board members, very important if they can just win the primary on both sides. They don't have to run, in the general. So we're going to have some school board member coming on. We are going to have some special guests. I'm not going to name because once we confirm it, once we do the show, people will know. I'm excited.
Yeah, me too. Looking forward to it.
And our viewership has been going up. We got more subscribers. So if you like our show, please subscribe. And I really have to say, I was very hesitant doing this conversation with Bob and Sherry, but I really enjoy it. It's been fun.
I do too. I'm glad you finally agreed.
So, well, till next time.
Okay. Bye, everybody.
Bye, everybody.